Fabulous. Hello, Powerhouse Smart friends and colleagues. Here we are again. Another phenomenal episode of the Powerhouse Cool Collabs Podcast. And why I call this phenomenal is our guest is truly such has an incredible years, a journey of wisdom and leadership and as far as giving back to humanity, my God, he's a role model for me. So I'm so excited for all of you to meet today's guest. And as you know, this is a commutable podcast. We never have enough time, but it goes so fast, 20 to 25 minutes. So without further ado, who's running in the Kentucky Derby, by the way, and my uncle asked me who I like in the Derby, and further ado is running in the Derby. So
Further ado, got to be a winner.
I have to put ten
Yeah.
dollars on him to win, or him, I think. But without further ado, please let me introduce to my podcast home, my dear colleague and friend who's going to share with us his story, Alan Lev. Alan,
Thank
welcome.
you. Hey, Wendy, always good to see you. I'm getting tired of seeing you virtually, though. We have to figure out how to catch up here in Chicago or in the suburbs or Newport or somewhere where we're all traveling to.
Yeah, or
Uh,
Arizona.
Arizona, yeah, not too bad there.
Okay.
Chilly day here in Chicago. So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I always enjoy participating in the myriad events and things that you put together. I don't know how you find the time for all these, but you seem to have more energy than just about anybody I know.
Hmm.
So I've known Wendy for, boy, 30 plus years, I think. And I said that Wendy must have started when she was about 15
Thank you.
years old, but. Um, but back in her Orem Piquel days. So my journey started in University of Illinois, where I was an accounting major, got my CPA while I was down there. Always thought that I wanted to be a lawyer. My father was a sole practitioner criminal attorney. And I knew I didn't want to be a criminal attorney because listening to people call my dad up in the middle of the night and go, Mr. Lev, I'm in jail. And he'd be like, well, I'll get you in the morning. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But I went to law school and worked my way through law school at Price Waterhouse using my accounting degree. But then I graduated law school and I went to work at a Chicago mid-sized law firm. And they said, we need a real estate attorney. And I, not knowing anything else and it being the first offer I received, I said, that's me. So,
I love
so pretty much at that time, I don't think really that people thought of real estate as a business. It was more of a entrepreneurial people, one-offs. It just wasn't really on the radar screen of students back in the 80s of being a profession and
it.
a way to make a living. Anyway, so I accepted the job as a real estate attorney and practiced law for 4 years. And I was lucky enough to meet a gentleman named Buzz Ruttenberg, who's now been my partner for 37 years, I believe now. And Buzz was practicing law. He was a lawyer himself and dabbling in real estate. And he and his brother and his father shared space in the firm that I was at, a firm called Gilbert Cohen. And
Mm.
I was the young 20-ish-year-old associate that was doing work with the Ruttenbergs. And Buzz and I became friendly from that. And after a couple of years, he wanted to get out of practicing law himself entirely, and I could already had the itch and seeing that what the clients were doing seemed a lot more interesting than the part I was doing.
Mhm.
So after talking for a while, we said, hey, why don't we do this together? And Buzz could focus on the real estate portion entirely, and then the entree into doing this was I would spend half my time practicing law doing for him, doing what I was doing anyway. And then the other half, the hope was that I would, learn enough about the business to be dangerous and valuable beyond that. And, as good things happen, after about 2 years, I was able to learn enough on the business side. I was able to get out of the law part entirely. We ended up hiring a series of in-house attorneys after that,
Mhm.
and I went 100% on the business side and became his partner after a couple of years. We grew the business from three of us, Buzz, myself, and a administrative person, into the company we are now. We started out by doing small projects and graduated to the point where we owned office buildings at the time, which we no longer own, thank God.
Mm,
And we did retail, which we still do some, and did primarily rental and for sale. And I think we became, pretty expert at the residential side. So that's what we've now focused on for the last, maybe 20 years or so.
yeah, and what a trajectory. I mean, Belgravia Group, you have really, I would say, the gold standard for what you guys do. And I see that, you've also been like a huge speaker for the Lincoln Park Builders Forum, and people really look up to you as a mentor and a guide on what you guys have built. That's just amazing. I'm always watching and snooping around, checking
Yeah.
to see what
It's
you're.
about, you know what though? Years ago, I would drive by or drive around the city and go, oh, we built that or we did that. It's changed. There's still a pride in that, but it's really about the people. Um, for me,
Yeah.
especially at this point in my career where I look around, not at the buildings we built, but I look around my office at 15 or so people that work here and I go, I hired all these people that have all been here for years. They're wonderful people. I know their families. I know, what's going on in their life. And every single one of them just, gives it their all. And that's what makes the company what it is. It's not Buzz and me or John McCulloch, or it's the relationships and the people and the change positively that you've had on their lives, where you've provided them a job and the opportunity for growth and in a very nice atmosphere here. And then I think that's probably what I'm proudest of, for the last bunch of years is not what we've built, but physically, but the relationships and the people that we've helped.
You know what? You answered my question before I could even ask, which is what matters most to you in this incredible journey, this career from law to real estate to development. And you're right, it is about the people. So, I love that you have a family and that you've always had this close-knit Belgravia Group family. But what about the people that you've established relationships with that are considered collaborators? How did you navigate that? And what's your philosophy on that for those who are listening to this?
Yeah, I think this is, one of the many things I learned from Buzz is we are not solely transactional. I mean, every project's a separate project, but when we've met a contractor or an architect or any number of consultants and they do a good job for us and they work hard for us, we stick with them, a banker. So it's not about saving, 25 basis points on a loan. It's working with CIBC, who we've worked with for years. They were mostly a lot of former LaSalle people that we used to work with for years. But it's about the relationship, and we're not chasing the last nickel on any project. The contractor that we've been using since around 2000, so long time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the architects tend to be, if it's within their wheelhouse, we tend to use the same architect. So people that treat us fairly and well and do a good job for us, we tend to continue to use them. And many of them have become my friends. I mean, there's certainly the business aspect to it, but I'll hang out or play golf or go for a drink and that's not super common, I think, in the industry. That people are hanging out with their general contractor. A lot of times there's this adversarial type of relationship, but we don't have that. I mean, when we put a team together on a project, we want and expect the architect to get along well with the contractor and both of them to have our best interests at heart. And I think it works best that way.
No, absolutely. It's like music to my ears, Alan. You know that I'm constantly, trying to teach that and share that with everyone. And I believe that we've shifted. I do believe that people now realize and they're listening and they're open to and open hearted and open minded. So I love that you support that. I just want to delve really, I wish I had more time, but I want to delve more into something new that you've been working on. Not really new. I mean, it's been 7 years you've been in Arizona now? How long have you been?
Well, I've had a house down there for a long time, but I think we've been doing business down there, started really kicking it off about 5 years ago.
5 years ago. So I know when we first talked when you first opened in Arizona. Maybe share with our audience because this is, people in our industry that are, listening to the wisdom you're sharing today. How was it to start, a brand new chapter in a new
Yeah.
city?
Well, first of all, I think it was a change by necessity. If we had had enough business in the pipeline and on the horizon in Chicago, I don't think we ever would have looked to open up a second market. I mean, we spent 30 plus years solely building in Chicago. When I say Chicago, I mean the city of Chicago, not even the suburbs. And Chicago is a vibrant city. Unfortunately, it's not a growing city. I think we're fairly stagnant on population and jobs. And while Chicago isn't going away, what fuels real estate, whether you're talking about residential or retail or any of the food groups, requires growth. And we just did not think we were going to see it here, and we haven't seen it here. So I don't know, about 5 plus years ago, I said to my partner Buzz, I said, you know what, if we want to continue to employ all these wonderful people and continue to do business, we need to do it somewhere else also. He said, where? I said, well, the Phoenix area. I'm down there. I have a place. I've started to make contacts. And Buzz, in his wonderful way, having, utmost confidence in me, he says, well, go, good, go figure it out.
Oh,
So
wow.
I go, okay, well, I'll figure that out. So I just kept looking around and trying to figure out which areas were prime for the type of work that we like to do. And we had one somewhat of a false start where we had a piece of property under contract and then ended up not going forward with it. The zoning was going to be really difficult. It was in an area that was going to be pretty contentious. And we're like, all right, well, this probably isn't the first place that we want to be. And then through these contacts and connections I made, we found a parcel in North Scottsdale that we liked, and it was zoned. Still had to go through a process, and I said, well, this is a good place for us to plant the flag. So that was the first project. It was 112 units. Condo units were finished. We're on the project 2, and I was just telling Wendy we just signed a letter of intent for project 3 down there.
Hmm.
And because we're crazy, we're actually going to build a restaurant also.
Ooh.
This little area that we're building in right now, the master developer has retail land, and they keep saying, "Oh, somebody's coming," nothing's come so far. And the people that have bought from us already and the future ones are, when's this retail coming? So finally, I decided we'll just take it into our own hands. So we're buying an outlot, and we're going to build a high-end Greek restaurant down in North Scottsdale. And there isn't anything like that. There's a very high-end place in the Phoenician, not in the Phoenician, in the Global Ambassador Hotel in Phoenix. Very expensive, very nice, and that's about it. So we think we're tapping into an unmet opportunity down there. So I guess I'm going to be in the restaurant business. We're bringing a group here from Chicago down there to be our partners.
Great. That's
But
wonderful.
yeah, so parts of doing business down there have been similar to here, and some of them have been more difficult. Uh, Entitlements are, they take time.
Yeah.
What's a little bit different down there is the municipalities pay a lot more attention to the aesthetics.
Yeah.
So even if you have zoning in Scottsdale, for example, you have to go through something called the Development or Design Review Board, DRB. And it's a long process where you're not showing them conceptual plans. I mean, you really have to show them a complete set of plans with landscaping and how lighting is going to work and the architecture. And it's about a 6 month process, plus or minus, and they really get into the weeds on your what your project's going to look like. So that's a new thing that even in Chicago on a planned development, you don't see that level of scrutiny. And then the other thing I think that's been a major difference is the construction trades.
Mm.
We don't know how lucky we are in Chicago and in the Chicago area, both union and non-union, how skilled and effective the construction industry is here in Chicago. It is not the same down there. We're finding that it's taking us a lot more supervision and handholding to get to the type of product that we're used to delivering in Chicago and insist on delivering down there. We'll have somebody go, "Oh, this unit's finished," and I walk in and go, "This is not finished." So it's been an experience. So from project 1 to project 2, we probably retained about 60% of the subcontractors and replaced about 40% of them that just weren't up to our standards. So we continue to learn on that. Things take a little bit longer down there than they do up here, and longer probably than they should. So
Yeah.
that's been a learning experience.
Hmm.
But plenty of opportunity down there. The valley's growing by 60 to 80,000 people a year still consistently, and
Yeah.
there's strong job growth. So where the job growth is and the population growth is, there's a need for more real estate, whether it be warehouses or data centers, which is, or chip plants, where there's an enormous chip plant under construction down there, or housing.
Yep.
Go where the opportunities are, and so it's been a great experience. Don't think we're the least bit interested in opening up a third market because it's hard enough to work in two. So locally in Chicago, we're not building any condos right now. This is the first time probably in my career that we didn't have at least one for sale product underway, but the numbers just don't work right now.
Right. Right.
Between the increased construction costs and the fact that the sales prices on things are fairly stagnant versus what they were several years ago. And then if you add in Chicago, on most sites, you have a 20% affordable housing requirement. I just think we're a long way off from
Hmm.
any kind of sizable for sale condos, townhome projects working, which is partly why the rental market is so hot here in Chicago, because there's not new inventory, and people are renting, sometimes by choice, sometimes not by choice. And the rental market in the Chicago area is very hot. I mean,
Crazy. Yeah.
crazy rental rates, occupancy. And it's funny because in Arizona it's the opposite. There's too much rental down there,
Yep.
and rents have had pressure, and occupancies have gone down. So there's a couple of years at least worth of time in order to absorb that excess inventory down there. So it's kind of a tale of two different markets. So we have three rental projects going on in the Chicago area, no for sale, and for sale projects in the Phoenix Scottsdale area, and no rental.
Yep. Well, that's what wise business people do. They diversify, and that's exactly what you've done. And in this
Right.
short 15 minutes, you've given us some incredible insight if anybody's in the development world. I mean, that was just like boom, 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 boom. You had to pay a lot of money to get that wisdom. So that was great. No, I hear
You get what you pay for, Wendy.
there. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And I just have to say that the people that are buying from you in your Belgravia projects in Arizona are getting such a great value because if they're not from the Midwest, they're going to learn the quality as far as a long-term investment and
Mhm.
and living comfort and health and wellness in your structure. Your what
Yeah, we follow the same format that we tried to in Chicago, which is we're not the top of the market price wise, but I would say we're probably top of the market quality wise. So we're able to deliver the highest quality, but we are not the highest priced by far down there.
Yeah, but definitely the highest standards, and I
Yeah.
would say that is why you continue to be, really a gold standard for a lot of people. So, as you know, the podcast also touches on the softer side, while real estate is, exciting.
Mhm.
And I would say this is a perfect question for you. Is we always celebrate an attitude of gratitude, and so how has gratitude influenced you on your journey?
Oh, greatly. I just had lunch with some young person who graduated from the University of Wisconsin's out looking for a job. We're not looking to hire, but he called me. I don't even know how he got to me, and I said, "Sure, I'll give you some time." Ended up being time and a lunch, but it was. Uh, there are people that I still remember through my career that were influential, not just my partner Buzz, but other people that in the law firm and beyond that shaped my career. And I am a firm believer in giving back and doing that. There
Yes.
were also, I was telling this young man at lunch today, I said there were also a couple people in my early career that were not so giving and not so nice. And I think whatever the saying is, what goes around comes around. Years later, one of those people that was not very helpful came to me and said, can we get some business from you? It was a lawyer, and I politely said, no, I think we're. And in my own mind, I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, when I was 20 something years old, you wouldn't give me the time of day, and now because have a successful business, I should give you business. So I remember that, and I think you remember the people along the way that were helpful to you. You remember the people who weren't too, but you very much remember those people. And I think it's hugely important. I said to this young man today, he said, what can I do for you? I said, the only thing you can do for me is when you're successful years from now and some young person calls you up and wants a little bit of your time, please give it to them.
Yes.
And
Wow.
I get great pleasure out of that. I do a fair amount of mentoring through the Eisenberg Foundation, through the University of Illinois, and a lot of informal too, where people will just reach out. And if I can, make the time for them, I do. I enjoy it. I think that when you do that, you have no idea how much of an impact you may be having on somebody else's life and their career.
Yep.
And I think those of us like yourself who've been successful in life and in business, I think we owe it to the world to do that.
Yes, yes, yes. Music to my ears again. You know what? I loved when I asked you to do a TED Talk, Powerhouse Smart Style. So we call it,
Right.
the Powerhouse Smart Talk. And, it was new for all of us. I even had to have a little coach help me make it as short
Hmm.
as we had to make it. It was all about mentorship. I loved it. You were so authentic. And here's this chairman of Belgravia Group going up there and talking about some things that, weren't always the best thing that happened in your life. And you were open and honest about it and
Yeah.
how mentorship means so much to you. And I think you really sent a message to that group. And since then, that was already many years ago. We're on our 10-year conference here.
Oh gosh.
I know. I know, but that was so beautiful. And you've been doing that for such a long time. And just recently you sent me, again, Alan's always helping. You're always helping. You sent me these.
Oh, Rory Rubin,
Yeah,
SI
yeah,
Container. Yeah.
yeah. That's a really cool new. Tell me a little bit about why you got involved in that.
I met these people through networking through somebody else several years ago, and they have a company in Buffalo Grove, suburb of Chicago, and they are taking shipping containers that ordinarily otherwise would just be sitting in a container graveyard, and they're repurposing them. They're repurposing them into housing. They're building a house in Highland Park out of them. I'm trying to crack the code to do multifamily with them, but they're also their bread and butter right now is they'll do construction offices and bathroom pods and
Yeah,
portable housing, and they're taking these containers that get shipped one way. Frankly, they come from Asia and they come here, and it isn't worth their money to ship them back, so they just stay. So so it's good for the ecology, um, and they build them in a factory, and then basically just, ship them out and put them together like Logos or Lego sets, and it's just interesting. So I'm on their board, and I'm invested some money, and I'm trying to help them grow their business. So being the network or person that I am, I introduced them to Wendy, of course.
yes, and of course, we're going to have a Powerhouse Smart Hard Hat tour in the future
Oh,
in
great.
Buffalo Grove and share
Yeah.
that with the entire community, which is in our industry. So, yeah, there were so many, obviously synergistic things when I met her, and I love it. And thank you. But yeah, what a cool a
Yeah,
new
I mean,
thing.
just for an example, we rent construction trailers that are really crummy out in our project in Arizona. We have two of them, and we're paying like $3,500 a month to rent these things, and you can buy one for about $30,000. That's a much nicer shape, and you own it. So, it seems to me like a pretty good business model for contractors, subcontractors that are having on-site trailers of some sort. I mean, you can move them, so it's an interesting business. So I'm trying to help them. Can't help it.
No, absolutely. And actually, I now just thought of another new connection. My cousin's son is in industrial property, and he says sorry, the train. I'm in Deerfield.
Yeah.
The industrial, he sells these parcels of land. This is in California, but I'm sure they would do this elsewhere. And literally develop people come and they just put containers on them, and they need a source of containers for whatever business that they're in. It's huge.
Oh, this is in California, did you
Yeah,
say?
in California, Northern
You have to
California.
talk to Rory because they're talking to they're raising additional equity, and they're talking to one source that's out of California. And one of the things that's important to them is that SI Container make a concerted effort to do business in California. So
All right. See, already the
this is
network continues to
this is
pay.
how it works.
Exactly. Exactly. So I love talking with you, Alan. I always follow what you're doing. I see you on LinkedIn, and I feel like there's a heart connection, even though we don't get to see each other or talk. So I thank you for sharing
Same here.
wisdom. And I want to start with what will always end with a question that's more heartfelt. And so, if you could share with our audience, who is obviously going to have links to all different ways to follow what you're doing on LinkedIn and your website and everything that's going on, but share with them maybe one message about either collaboration, gratitude, or purpose. What would you say to our audience in closing today?
Wow. I think about all three of those things often.
Yes.
Get to a certain point in your life and you hope that you've made a mark and some kind of lasting impression on some people at least.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of gratitude. Never thought that I would be in the position that I am and have found myself in. Was started with really nothing. And I don't, it's not just the money part of it, but it's the number of friends I've made and the number of business friends I've made and the people that I work with. So I'm very grateful for that. And I think about that a lot. Um, and I believe in purpose. I mean, and I think I started thinking about this, many years ago. And it wasn't just keeping my head down and, figuring out how to make a buck, but it was also how I could get involved in charitable organizations and other types of things, so that I was giving back not just money, but also of my time. So I was chairman of the American Cancer Society for 3 years and president of the Home Builders Association. I just think and I have this maybe naive feeling that the more you give, that somehow it comes back to you in spades. And I think it's true. I think it really does. If I ever needed anything or had to, ask somebody a favor, there'd be many people I think that would step up and want to help me. And you engender that type of feeling by doing for others.
Yep. Yep. And so I would call it, Alan, that you are a bright light in this world. And there's a reason why we were connected so early on, and how we've stayed, even though it's not on a daily basis, we've stayed friends and colleagues, and there's mutual trust and respect. And I'm just honored to have you in my life. So thank you
Yeah,
so
same here.
much.
And I applaud you on the wonderful work that you've done. And we were kidding before you started recording. Like I thought you were going to slow down, but you just seem to be getting into something else and something else. And then Johnny just sits on the side and goes, "Sure, whatever, Wendy. Just keep going."
He's my cheerleader.
Yeah, he is. He's awesome.
Yeah, well, it was great seeing you, and I'm so
You
thrilled you're
too.
going to stop by or if you can come the entire day to the June
Yeah,
3rd Luxury Summit at SKS. I will be so happy to see you in person and give you a big hug.
I will come by.
Okay, have a
Great to see
wonderful
you.
trip to Arizona.
Nice to
Thank you
talk to you
again.
as always.
All right,
Thanks.
thanks again.
Bye.
We'll talk soon. I'm going to post on Friday.
All right.
Okay, bye.